All right, today is Tuesday, June 17th. This is the North Hudson Public Works meeting. Roll call, please.
Trustee Stanifer?
Here.
Chairman Head?
Here.
Trustee Anderson?
Present.
Approval of minutes from May 20th, 2014 Public Works meeting. Trustee Anderson?
I motion that we approve the minutes from the May 20th Public Works meeting.
I will second, since you weren't here.
Well, if there are no additions or corrections, you don't need a motion. You simply announce that they stand approved as read.
Stand, what was that?
Stand approved as presented.
Approved as presented and or read.
I second that.
All right, I'll
Don't need a motion.
We
Take
don't need a
everything
second,
crazy.
though, what?
Shopyards update.
All right, so basically, I don't know if you've been down there or not, but final lift of asphalt went down 2 weeks ago.
Looks good.
Yeah, and there was a bunch of punch list items that we did last week. Total came in. Mark and I were down there and checked everything off. There is one little item left that's going to happen on Thursday morning. That's in regards to Collins lot there. We just need to come in and grade that out, smooth it out. You requested that, so total schedule to do that Thursday morning. After that, basically all the construction is completed. Just looking before and after, I think it tremendously a lot cleaner down there. Very happy with the results of the outcome of the construction. So basically in the next, this week we're going to be doing the as-built, bringing out the field crews, measuring up, how much restoration, gravel, measuring depths, manholes, and then we'll put the construction plans, the as-built construction plans together. And then within this next month, then we'll be working with Total to finalize all the quantities as part of the project, and then bringing the final pay up to the next Public Works meeting. So basically get everything closed up. The one last item that we'll have to do then is prepare the final assessment report. So get that completed. That'll be done this fall, late summer, and then that'll be it.
Mr. Chairman, are we complete and finalized with all the exchange of easements that are necessary on the project?
They are all executed. They are all recorded. Terry Dunce has to do the final document that would release the old ones, and that would be recorded at the Register of Deeds. That hasn't taken place yet, but I know he's in the works of that.
Please.
But questions to the chair. But we have no outstanding issues with any property owners as far as signing documents. Is that correct?
Trustee Stanford, I will default to our village engineer.
Correct. They are all executed.
Good.
Yep, signed
Good.
and sealed.
So that my only question is easements on this, or not easements, but assessments are done. Where do we stand with?
Over the next month we'll be finalizing the numbers with the contractor. We need that in place before we can generate the final assessment report. So that'll be, probably August. Maybe the August Public Works meeting, we would bring that to you so you could review it.
So are we going to have a bunch of people coming in again complaining about he was assessed this, he was assessed that, my cat died, my grandma died, my grandpa died, the storm came, you remember the whole.
It might
Is it
come
going
up.
to be across the board split evenly?
That's the way the preliminary was drafted, and I guess that's what we're planning on proceeding
All right.
with. Because I'm not aware of any agreement that
I don't think there was.
came in place.
The village board gave them the option if they could all agree to a
Yep.
different assessment thing and they could bring it to us.
Yep.
Nobody ever came forward.
Mr. Chairman, I think we fought those battles. So
All right.
I think the answer to your question is no.
Okay.
Let me say, I hope the answer to your question is no.
I wouldn't be surprised if they show up again.
No, I believe they will. The conversations I've had with some of them.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you would,
at that point, the conversation, it's going to be essentially, you guys had your opportunity. Sorry,
Yep.
this is what we're doing.
yeah, my hope is actually the numbers will come in less than what the preliminary is.
Yeah.
So, hopefully that will alleviate some of the issues, but till I have final numbers, I won't know that, but at least that's the hope.
Any more questions, discussion about the shop yard project? No. Perfect. Water main, number 4, water main, water service repairs at East Bank condominiums update. Mark?
Actually, I want to defer this to Kevin.
Given?
So, that particular project, as you're aware, the village board moved to continue on with that particular project. We're scheduled to go out there and do the field work this week. Mark and I were kind of looking at a schedule of when we wanted to bring the results to the Public Works meeting. And we'd like to give the contractor a couple weeks to look at that project. It's going to take us probably about a week to get the plans and specs put together, and we'd like to meet with Jim Swanson, the president down there from East Bank, before we actually send that out, just to get some of his comments and reviews. So we'd probably be looking at meeting with him on the 27th of next week. So that doesn't leave us a lot of time to get it out. We have to advertise it. It's class 1 notice because it's over 25,000. And we'd like to give them 2 weeks. So your particular next Public Works meeting comes up fairly quick in July. So we were looking at maybe delaying that like by a week.
Instead of meeting on the 15th of July, we'd actually meet on the 22nd.
Just to give us a little bit more time to get our coordination in place and get it out to the contractors and get it back to the Public Works for review. Because it sounds like they would like to get things moving along fairly quickly down there, so.
And that was a not to exceed 30,000? Was that 28 something, 30?
30. Initially left Public Works at 30, and I also then went through board at the price that Kevin gave them, but I believe it still went through, that's
It's like-
not to exceed 30,000.
Yeah. My estimate was around 24,000. But we won't know until we get the numbers in.
Well, it's been an ongoing problem, and I have over the years received a number of phone calls about it, and we need to get it taken care of.
And then the easements for the railroad for the second part of that to connect the main on the other side.
We'll have to work on that during the.
So how's that start? Who initiates that?
I mean, I can initiate some of the beginning discussions. I might have to pull Mark or Gloria into the picture.
Is this something Terry needs to be involved in?
Yeah, by the time, yes.
Yeah,
Well, the village attorney will have to be involved.
to review the documents and stuff that are put together. Yeah.
And to your point, Chairhead, we need to be the catalyst and not from the railroad standpoint. They don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we want to put a date on that then, when we should start?
I'll try to start making contact with him this month. Start that process and just see where it leads to. See what their initial comments are, and I can update the Public Works committee members next month, just to see how that's going along.
Biggest thing is, we have to just, they're no longer using the property, we have to make sure, sure that, that their tracks are no longer there, it's not like we're crossing under
Yeah.
a used railroad track,
So it's a matter of if everybody would be available for that following week to meet that Tuesday. If we could look at rescheduling.
The
that.
22nd. Yeah. So I'll have to look at my schedule, but if I can't make it, Daryl, Trustee Stafford, or Trustee Anderson could probably cheer for me that week.
Chairhead, are you wanting to decide that right now, the 22nd?
Yeah, if you're willing to chair it, Daryl.
You can't make it, you know that?
I'm pretty certain I'm going to be out of country. Not 100%, but
You gonna be available?
I'll be here.
That too.
I'll be in country.
You'll be in, you'll be in North Hudson?
I think. I'm not sure. If I can make it, I'll be here for sure, but
I can do the 22nd.
okay.
Okay.
Then we'll move that to the 22nd.
Perfect.
Yeah, no problem with that. All right, number 5, review of bids for various village street projects. The first one is the crack filling bids, discussion and possible recommendations. So we have an issue statement in front of us. Mark, do you want to?
Basically, we did advertise, or the village did put out ads for have crack filling done, and then also I sent out bid packets to all the companies that have done work for us previously, because they all send notes requesting each spring to have bid packets sent to them. You'll see in the crack filling that we got bids back from 4 companies at the amounts indicated. My recommendation would have Scott Construction crack fill the 31 streets listed on the proposal at a cost not to exceed the $22,355. The biggest thing with this is crack filling came over budget. Basically, we're over budget by $7,355, so we will have to take that from seal coating to.
Is it available? Do we have a surplus in seal coat
No,
to cover it?
What we're gonna
Or are
do
we
is
going to be taken
we're
from?
gonna be taken from seal coating and
Same old story.
same old story. We really need to start budgeting more for.
Yeah, we do. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
question for Mark. This inclusive bid of the 22,355 would do all of the streets that we have identified that we want this year in the project as far as crack filling, right?
Correct.
We-
All
we-
31 streets.
That bid would do the
Yes.
streets that we wanted. Hearing that, Mr. Chairman, I would be prepared to put a motion on the table, and I move that we approve the low bid of Scott Construction for $22,355 to do the crack filling in 2014.
There's 2 parts to the motion.
I do not have that in front of me. I was ad-libbing.
That's pretty good. So there's the second part.
I mean, I like the second part. So. Well, no, I don't. Because it is indicative of the dilemma that we're in. But I will include my motion to go on and say, Mr. Chairman, and I further move to move $7,355 from the seal coating line item budget to the crack filling budget to cover the overage.
Discussion.
Your recommendation was Scott Construction?
Correct.
Now, was this part of, remember, was it St. Croix County came in, said they could,
Yes, I did send in the bid packet and everything else, and we did not receive.
didn't get anything back? Okay.
Well, just for the record, and I'm no longer part of that, but for the record, the county cannot bid on projects. The county can give an estimate of what it would cost, but they're not in the business of bidding against other contractors. They're prohibited from doing that by law statute.
And basically, that's what they told me. They could estimate it and everything else,
Right.
but they would not give us a
Right.
guaranteed price.
Right.
And the estimate on that was
They never actually did give me an
never,
estimate.
okay. No, fair enough.
They basically went by what I kind of figured out and everything else by using the square footage numbers, and they pretty much told me, "Oh yeah, that's about right." But that's over $40,000, and for seal coating. And they didn't give me anything as far as crack filling or anything else, any estimated cost. So,
And Scott's been in here before.
oh yes, we have. Scott's been here basically for about 18 years. I've worked here. They've done something for the village.
Yeah, Roderick, we're very familiar. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
We're very familiar with that contractor.
Okay.
Contractor's done a lot of work in the village, at least in my opinion. I think you would concur. They've been
Easy,
they've been timely, good to work with,
How can they
and
be,
do quality work.
how can it be such a differentiating amount from,
By almost half.
Over half.
Yeah, well, it's basically, when they come in and everything else, a lot of it involves it is how they actually figure the poundage and everything else with cracks. Our thing is, no matter what, we're covered, because with the way I have them bid it, it's you will fill all cracks that are as spec'd and everything else, as our specs read, and it depends on how they want to figure it.
Because it's almost like American didn't even want to do it.
Yeah, well,
They're
that's true.
like-
But some of them, if they're too busy, they
They're
just
like-
jack the price up just
Yeah.
because they don't want to deal
They're
with it.
too busy to do it anyway.
And some of them, it's their mobility cost. You know how much it's going to cost, because if they've already got work done in this area, but if they got to come back and do us and have to make a special trip over here, then they're going to charge us more, just because they're making a special trip back to this side of the state.
So we have a motion out right now.
We do.
I'll second that motion.
Since it is a spending item, we need a roll call vote, and we will start with Trustee Anderson.
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Then we have the hot patch flex patching bids discussion, possible recommendation. There is a suggested motion that has two parts.
You gonna call on Mark?
Mark?
Okay, basically same thing. We did advertise this in the paper. We also did send out bid packets to anybody who requested them. And we had 3 companies that came back with bids. And I am, my recommendation is to have Perfection Paving, hot patch of 29 areas of streets listed on the proposal at a cost not to exceed $10,594. Just a note on this, it basically we are $594 over our budget, which the budget on this is $10,000. So we will have to take that $594 from seal coating.
So I will make the motion. I recommend having Perfection Paving Company hot patch the 29 areas of streets listed on the proposal at a cost not to exceed $10,594, and also recommend moving $594 from the seal coating budget line item to the hot patching budget line item to cover the overage.
I'll second that for discussion purposes. Now, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Okay, we've now moved to 2 figures from the seal coating budget, and before we act on this one, what does this mean when we get to seal coating?
Basically, our budget went from our budget for seal coating was $15,000. $7,355 went to crack filling. $594 will go to hot patching. That would leave us a balance of $7,051.
And our seal coating needs inclusive of
If we would do all,
what we had planned this year was what?
well, if all the streets, if you look at the actual proposal and everything else, the cheapest one, if we would do all 7 streets that we indicated, you're looking at $41,500.
Right, and there is the rub, Mr. Chairman. Every year we face this, and we're falling farther and farther behind. I don't have a magic wand to solve this. I wish I did, but every year we rob Peter to pay Paul, and we're falling farther and farther behind in our maintenance of our streets. And at some point, we need to recognize that we just can't continue to delay the maintenance
Yep.
and repair items of our streets. I'm not trying to throw town of Hudson under the bus. I'm just observing that this year they finally realized they had to bite the bullet, and they're going to referendum and asking for an additional $400,000 in excess of the levy, because they too have been falling farther and farther behind and recognize that it can't continue indefinitely. So the rhetorical question is, what are we going to do with the fact that we're falling farther and farther behind?
So can we, there's a motion and I think a second.
I did.
Can we vote on this first and then
Yeah.
let's discuss the seal coating budget issue? So we had a motion, I think we had a second, right?
I second it.
Okay.
You made it, I second it.
So, trustee Anderson?
I mean, I guess being unfamiliar with what we've done in the past, Mark, is this an ongoing yearly thing of crack filling and hot patching?
Correct. See, the biggest thing you have to do is, before we can even seal coat a street, we have to make sure we fill all the cracks. We have
Right.
to make sure that we keep all the
It's
cracks
the bare
filled in all the
minimum
streets.
maintenance.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
That's
like,
the bare, we have
Yep.
to do crack filling and not patching.
It's the same discussion that was had last year.
Yep.
Exact same. And Mark Zappa was very concerned that we were headed to the Hudson Street.
no, but it's an excellent point that,
Basically, right now, and then the 7 streets I have listed here, they're just the streets that are critical, you know?
Yeah.
Right now, like I told Glory right now, to actually, if I go out and look at all the streets in the village, I need over $100,000 just to get us to where we should be. And I mentioned that to our administrator, and she looks at me like, what do I do?
so, I mean, minus the East Bank pipe fix, we could seal coat some streets.
The second half. But that money's from a different.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying hypothetically,
fund.
no East Bank pipe fixing thing, we could have streets seal coated. Is that what we're looking
Come out of
at?
different accounts,
Yeah,
totally different
accounts.
accounts.
It's apples and oranges.
Yeah,
I understand your point, but it's apples and oranges.
Essentially, where we're going to get the $41,000. That's discussion on the next item.
yep.
So,
But I mean, I'd like to, kind of keep that on a burner at least, and so it's not just shuffled off until next year. We're like, oh shit. We
now we're at 80.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, the 41 that is now 75.
So,
You know,
let's vote on the hot patch bid.
Where do you want to start?
Trustee Anderson.
Okay?
yes.
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 All right. Motion carries. Now, to the seal coating and to Daryl's comment about, this is the same discussion we had last year. We did,
Yep.
it was almost the exact, if I recall,
Yep.
the exact same exercise.
Yep.
So here we are, right,
364 days later.
Yep.
and we need $41,449.13 approximately to actually do seal coating after we've done crack filling, hot patching, which is bare minimum maintenance.
How much was that 4-wheel drive Explorer? Top car?
Wrong budget.
Easy enough. Good vote on that one.
And Mr. Chairman, just to make sure the record is clear, this was not something that reared its head for the first time last year.
Yeah.
This has been an
Been on
ongoing
years.
problem.
For years.
This
When
looks
we
like
look at budgets in
slippery
the village, street maintenance becomes, unfortunately, an easy target. We're under levy limits. We have only so much capacity in terms of the revenue stream that we can raise from property taxes, and the target, the roads, just cannot continue to be a target because we're seeing the roll-down effect of those consequential events for a series of years. And now we have approved crack filling, and we've approved the hot patching, both of which need to be done before we seal coat.
Yep.
So we're doing it in the right order. But now we're up to seal coating, and we're only left with $7,000. And as our Public Works Superintendent indicated, that is significantly below what we need to maintain the roads on the schedule that we've got for seal coating. And again, I say I don't have a magic wand, but the dilemma is in front of us, and it's getting worse and worse each year in terms of what we have left over when we get to seal coating.
So what are options for raising that money?
raise property taxes. Everybody's except mine.
What are our options? Right. This is a open-ended question.
Well, the quick and dirty answer to your question is that there are two options. We can do what Town of Hudson has done and go to referendum to exceed levy limits. I find that exceptionally distasteful. Or we cut spending in some other areas. That's pretty easy to say, very hard to do, because I've been on the board for a number of years, and I can attest to the fact that there are not fatty items in the budget. It's a dilemma that we are faced with ongoing budgetary expenses for the village, and we find it increasingly difficult to have the funds to maintain our roads.
Yep. So, having said that, and knowing that there's no fat in the budget, because I've sat in on those budget meetings as well, right? At best, what we're going to find in the budget is probably maybe $12,000 plus the $7,000, right? If we make a really concerted effort, so we've got maybe $19,000, which is still going to leave you $21,000 short. So if the other option then is a referendum, we all use the roads, then maybe that's where we need to go, despite the bad taste it's going to leave in our mouths. But something's got to be done, and right, we're here to make the village of North Hudson run smoothly. So if that's what we got to do, then that's what we got to do. And if the residents of North Hudson vote it down, then we'll go back and we'll see if we can't piecemeal this over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, trying to stay ahead of it. I don't see any other options, personally.
Yeah.
Please.
Mark, from the standpoint of the schedule that we have for the roads in the village, keeping in mind the chart that we've got on the Pacer ratings and everything else, if we only have available this year $7,000 to do seal coating, how far does that back us up on the schedule? I'm just looking for some kind of estimate of time. Does this back us up a year, 2 years, 3 years?
Right now,
Just-
this is going to be our third. We seal coated 2 years ago. We seal coated, pine. What was it now? Prairie, Cedar, Webster, the 10th Street cul-de-sac, 8th Street cul-de-sac, and then Sand Hill Point cul-de-sac. We did those just because we could fit them in, and we got those out of there. But right now, we had 3 streets on the time that way. We're up to 7 now. Like I said, I could at least make this list 10 to 12 streets that are in need of seal coating. And so every year we are falling back. 2 or 3 more streets are being added every single year.
Okay. I'm not trying to pin you to the wall. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. Would you say that we are 3 years behind our schedule? 2 years? 4 years?
4 to 5 years. behind
4 to
the
5
schedule.
years. Okay, Mr. Chairman, we're 4 to 5 years behind our schedule. And from my way of thinking, that's like the Fram oil filter. You pay me now or you pay me later. And if we're 4 or 5 years behind our schedule, then look what it's going to take us to catch up doing our normal annual required maintenance and then the catch-up. The longer we delay, the more painful it will be to ever get up to where we ought to be in terms of our schedule. And this is a discussion that's beyond this committee.
Yep.
This is a discussion at the village board level, because that's where we approve the budget. And I just don't see how we can continue each year to fall farther and farther behind, because at some point we're so far behind that the pain of catching up is just going to be unbearable.
If I could just pipe in this. Lemon Street, basically, Lemon Street's at a point right now that, especially the section between Summer Street and Michelson Street, if we do not seal coat that street this year, my recommendation with next year is let it go, and within 2 to 3 years do a mill and overlay on it.
Because that's how bad their street's getting in point.
It is.
And that's even
Agree.
Which is
recreation,
gonna be
that's,
just
that's what Farner and Scott and
costs
some of the other
you
ones.
way up at that
I met
point.
with all of them, and basically all said the same thing. If you do not seal coat that street this year, forget it. You're not gonna, because,
No, we can't bring it back.
no. Thing is, with only $7,000, I called and talked to Kevin, who was lowest bidder. Farner Asphalt Sealers was the lowest bidder. On seal coating, I called and talked to our salesman, and he talked to his supervisor, and they just finished some streets in Hudson and River Falls this week. They're telling me for only $7,000, it's not worth for them mobilizing back over here just to do $7,000 worth of work. So basically, they're telling us that if we're only gonna do $7,000 worth of work this year, basically, they're not interested. They says you're better off. Take that $7,000, try to transfer it over to next year and add it into your seal coating budget for next year and try to do something then.
So how do we bring this to a referendum then? What's the next? I'm looking to our senior leadership here.
Boy, I don't know. I guess at this point, I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, that we defer approving any seal coating this year and take this to the village board and have that full board discussion and indicate that we are up to a crisis time in terms of our roads. Because as Mark correctly points out, I mean, a $7,000 seal coating bid is not very interesting to anybody. By the time you bring your equipment and set up and do $7,000 worth of work, it's
Yeah.
hardly worthwhile.
So if we defer seal coating now, right, then we're into July
Well,
board meeting for
it-
discussion.
It would
Right.
delay it a month. Correct
Well,
me
this
if
all has to-
correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but if we delay it a month, we still could seal coat this year.
Oh, of
What's
course,
the latest?
the latest you want to seal coat?
Yep.
Is basically you want it done before Halloween.
Right.
Or actually, basically, let me rephrase that. Basically, you want to have it done by the end of October. You want to have about a month where you can actually get weight of traffic on it before you're, you know. And that's even running late. I don't recommend doing that. I usually like to have it down before
Yep.
mid-August.
It's still
That's
warm.
usually what I aim for. Or end of August, somewhere around in there.
But we could
Want
still
some hot
we
months.
could still pull that off though, even with the delay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess from a parliamentary standpoint, to dispose of this item, I move that we postpone consideration of seal coating in the village in 2014 until after full discussion at the village board at the July meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item number 6, 2014-2015 snow removal contract discussion only.
Yes, basically, as our current agreement with Zappa Brothers Inc. will be expiring here before the start of the next snow season. So basically, I'm just asking what you guys want me to do. Do you want me to negotiate again with Zappas? Do you want me to advertise it out? Do you want, Daryl knows we went through this last year with one contractor and then ended up having two contractors. We're gonna split it, and then it ended up one contractor taking the whole thing because the other contractor just kind of decided he didn't want to do it anymore.
Does it have to go out for an RFP?
No.
Should it go out?
Basically, your budget and everything else on this, in your current budget, is $15,000 for contracted snow removal. Just to let you know, in 2013, 2014 snow season, basically we paid our contractor a little under $30,000 just because of the snow season we had, which was quite a win.
So what's the proposed budget for 14-15? Is it
It's right now, it's $15,000.
15?
You have to remember on this, when you guys set your budget, part of it's used first part of the year for snow removal, part of it's used for second part of the year for snow removal. And that's
Is there any possibility? I mean, 15 grand seems kind of cheap to me for.
It is. We are actually.
I don't know if we're gonna.
That's why when we had the meetings and everything else since the snow season ended, and the administrator brought it up at one meeting, well, we paid this contractor a lot more, and I think anybody that was at that meeting remembered that I told her, well, we're actually most likely paying the realistic numbers we should have been paying for years. When we had Bjornstead and Sons doing the thing for us, the rates they were charging us, the village was getting by extremely, extremely cheap.
And Denny has no interest in.
Danny no longer has no interest in doing it.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we put out for bid the snow removal for 2014 and 2015. Then I'd like to speak to my motion if that's seconded.
I'll second.
The reason that I think that it would be advisable to put this out for bid is for the benefit, not only for the village, but for the contractor. I have no problems with this contractor. They did exceptional work. I think the rates are fine. I have no problem with them at all. Having said that, I just think that it would be advisable for the cleanliness of the process, for both the village and that contractor, to put it out for a proposal and see if there are other bids that come in. I suspect there will not. And that will make our decision easy.
The biggest thing I'll go.
But I think that it's proper to do it.
I think we'll have to put some kind of bid package together, basically saying that we need to have, the type of equipment like we had last year
Right.
in the streets, because those payloaders in the
Right.
cul-de-sacs helped out tremendously,
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, there's a motion.
And second.
Do we need to do a roll call vote? It's not spending at them yet. So, all in favor?
RFP.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, like. Supervisors report.
No, engineers first.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, engineers
yeah,
report.
I don't have anything additional for this month.
Supervisors report.
The only thing I have is right now, basically my department's on its summer hours. Instead of starting at 7:30 to 4, we're actually starting at 7 o'clock till 3:30. Of course, we work later for coming earlier if we needed. And basically, this is something I will be putting down as a future agenda item, because basically every department we work with the city, they all either start at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. Every contractor we use all start at 7 o'clock. I would, at the point, I believe instead of having us to come in early, to have to start work and earlier than thing, I think it's just best for us to move to 7 o'clock and work till 3:30. Yeah, that'd be our normal hours.
Even through the
Year
season.
round, year round.
Year round.
Yep. Water department 7 o'clock. Treatment plant 7
Yeah,
o'clock.
That makes sense. That
Yeah.
totally
Yeah,
makes
I don't
sense.
got an issue with that. Anything else, Mark?
That's it.
Future agenda items?
One thing that's brought up, basically, the administrator is requesting that we relook at our 5-year capital improvement plan, which we haven't done it in a little bit. And initially, one thing we really need to discuss again before budget, before we start getting the budget thing, and else is, of course, we gotta talk about the seal coating and all that stuff, but we also need to, discuss, what are we gonna do about Lakeview Drive? That street is, last year we patched it, everything else, it's streets in, especially edge of streets are getting so bad on that thing. We have to decide if we're gonna do a mill and overlay on that thing, or if we're gonna do a complete project and finish installing the sanitary sewer to the end. So in the future, those people have something if their septics go bad, and also reconstruct the sewer in Pine Street to make sure everything can gravity feed down the 7th. And also update the water. You have houses on Pine Street that are actually on a 2-inch water main.
What?
So it's like, it's time, and there's a 6-inch water main there just running for fire hydrants. So I think it's time to hook.
So we have
Those houses up to
Lakeview Drive.
Yep, but
Then
Lakeview
you've got-
Drive would be either just a mill and overlay project,
Or we do a complete project with water, sewer, everything else, and that would include both Lakeview Drive and Pine Street North.
Well, Mr. Chairman, for discussion only, I guess that's what we're doing, is just responding to the Public Works Supervisor. I think the catalyst here is the utility work. I don't think it makes sense to consider the surface project without carefully looking at the underground infrastructure. And there are significant improvements to that underground infrastructure that need to be made. And at some point, they will be required to be made. So it seems to me to be a waste of money to even consider doing something about the surface of the road until we have decided, not if, but when, we're going to do the infrastructure
Utilities.
under the road.
Yep. So Mark, what budget does this come out of?
Well, part of it would come out of your,
Part of it's assessed.
part of it, the street itself would be assessed, and everything else would be actual, water and sewer would actually come out of our replacement funds.
And what do those look like?
I would have to get updated numbers right now. We're using some of that money in the shop yards project, so we're gonna have to wait till we get Kevin's updated numbers so we can actually know how much we're taking out of it.
And is that, I'm going out on a limb here, 202,
One of them's 210 fund.
210,
And the other, I can't
trying.
remember.
210 and 220.
Yeah.
210, 220.
Some numbers I try and remember, those I don't.
Well, my problem is
I had the
I
two
know,
right.
I used to have them all
I had the
memorized
two right.
until we got that storm sewer one. No, that's 215, and all the numbers got
And the only reason I ask is so when we get the board packet, I can
Yeah.
go and look and see
Yeah.
what's there.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
So, future agenda items would be Lakeview Drive mill only, or Lakeview Drive, address the utilities before we actually do the surface aspect of
We
it.
either do a mill and overlay on Lakeview Drive only, or else we do a total reconstruct of Lakeview Drive and Pine Street North.
In the streets assessed, right?
Correct.
And-
Street, curb, and gutter.
If you do curb and gutter, that
Yeah.
would be
Yeah, that'd be
accessible
assessed.
too.
Okay.
And as part of that, everything else, one thing that both Kevin and I have discussed, this will also be an agenda item, is actually, there's sections of sanitary sewer and storm sewer that we would like to have televised. So I'll be getting bids from different companies that do that, especially with them talking about a future project on
Right.
6th Street North, Pine Street, Lakeview Drive,
Yep.
Lemon Street North. We should check that sanitary sewer out. I got a list of ones that both Kevin and I have talked about, different ones that we thought should be televised. We also have a problem with the section of storm sewer pipe on Michelson Street that freezes up every time they backwash the well during the wintertime. So I think we better televise those and find out what our problems are.
And let's not forget seal coating. So, other future agenda items I would like to add. We still have a erosion problem over at 850.
Yep, actually I turned that over to the building inspector.
Brian.
Yep, because basically it's erosion control on a construction site is actually at the builder inspectors. I actually went up there Saturday when it was raining and watched the water come off that roof.
sure.
Watched the water come off the roof of that house on the southeast corner, and it went. Well, a lot of it went towards your house. A lot of it went down towards Cratley. And
I was kayaking.
This is the new house that's built by you?
that has actually my house under construction, or after its thing, that is actually all under the building inspector. So
Isn't that like a nature conservancy back there?
But I talked to as far as us doing the hookups, so Brian's up with everything that the village did as far as that, but Brian said he will contact the contractor and then he'll contact me back, and
So Wirt needs to be driving that. Is that what I'm hearing?
that basically the way I'm leaving it now is yes, it should be coming from the building inspector. He just did
Okay.
another one because we had a sin up at Derrick subdivision. They had one a couple weeks ago that that new model home, and there's a whole front yard washed out and went down into the storm source.
Who put the pigtail out there? Was that who put that quote unquote erosion control
Where-
little right behind?
I believe the contractor did.
Did he?
Yeah, I believe the contractor did. But now it just came. It's going over the top of that.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
So
Are you talking about a silt fence?
no, not even
Actually,
silt
it's-
fence.
Those straw
Just-
bags.
It's well, it's actually wood
Just
chips.
Pigtail.
That's what those are made
absorbent.
Oh,
It's like a-
Just sitting there,
Yeah.
preventing what it can.
You probably know.
Yeah,
You ever
go ahead,
wash out
well,
like those
Just bring a real joy.
big sandbags and fill them with grass seed? Well, sand
Okay.
grass
Yeah.
seed. Throw 'em in there. Throw establishment right there.
Any other future items? No. Zero?
I'm good.
Nothing? All right.
Yep.
Move to adjourn at approximately 6:47.
Thank you.